All right, well, let's look at some news articles. There's always a lot of news. So the Department of Government Efficiency had been laying off people from CISA, which are, of course, pretty important workers. They do a lot to protect us from enemy attacks and so on. And they got termination letters saying they're not fit for continual deployment, which is a particularly vicious thing about DOGE's activities. They're not only laying people off, they're sending them letters saying they're laid off for failure to perform, even though they have good performance evaluations, and that means that they will not be able to get unemployment insurance. And it's also completely baseless, and courts have said you must rehire these people. You cannot do this. It's illegal to fire them for failure to perform when you have no evidence that they failed to perform. But the Trump administration just decided to continue deporting people in direct defiance of a court order. A federal court told them you have to stop sending these flights to El Salvador. The people are deporting because the grounds on which you're deporting them are illegal, and they decided to completely ignore that. So I think we are headed for a constitutional crisis, although what it'll mean is it'll go up to the Supreme Court, and we'll see if the Supreme Court is willing to rubber stamp these almost certainly illegal activities of DOGE and so on. So anyway, since DOGE fired all probationary workers throughout the entire federal government because they didn't understand what probationary meant, and these are often very senior people who just got promoted and are only probationary temporarily in their new position, the court has ordered them to rehire them. But apparently, CISA is like other government agencies. Apparently, in addition to firing these people, they destroyed the records, so they no longer have any way to reach these people. And so they've made a public statement here that anybody who got fired from CISA, who is in a probationary status, has to let them know to get their job back. And the way to get them to know is to provide a password-protected attachment that provides all this information, although there is no statement of how you would possibly get the password to them. So this seems to be, just like everything DOGE has done, poorly thought out, put out by people who don't even understand what's going on, giving you instructions that make no sense. And this is why everybody throughout the whole federal government is in a miserable state of low morale now. They all know they're likely to get fired tomorrow. Many of their friends have already been fired, and nobody can get any answers from anybody. Their bosses don't know what's going on. They can't tell them. But if they try to obey the rules of what they've been sent, it won't do anything. They won't be able to make any sense of it. They already got this email a few weeks ago saying you must provide 5 things you did last week, and the people that turned that in got no answer, and they don't know what the result is. And people who took the agreement 3 or 4 weeks ago saying you can retire now and you'll get 9 months of severance pay have got no information whether they are really retired, whether they're going to get the pay. So, you know, it's just complete chaos and all completely illegal. Anyway, then who will do the work? Well, it's a very good question, Eric. I think nobody will do any work in the federal government. I think basically everybody can't really do their job. If they also canceled all government credit cards. They gave them all a limit of $1, so they can't pay anybody. They can't even pay for the food for the bomb-sniffing dogs. They just canceled all that. So it's complete chaos. This is living up to a right-wing belief that's been around for a long time that we really shouldn't have any government. And they're accomplishing that to some extent. But the other thing that came out last week that's very interesting is experts said this is very bad for national security because all these people are now ripe for being recruited by our enemies. And the Russians and the Iranians and other people have said now's the time to recruit American government agencies to turn traitor workers because, of course, they feel abused, they don't believe in their job, and many of them are going to quit. And CISA in particular has had a huge problem in that, in fact, I know friends that have done exactly this. People who moved into the public sector get a cut in pay, like maybe 1/4 of what you'd make in the private sector. So the only reason anybody's working here is because of high patriotism and belief in the mission of this agency, and I think it would be very hard to be patriotic about serving in the Trump administration at any level. I think I would not recommend any of my friends to take a government job now or to retain a government job. Working for Trump has proven to be completely insane. You won't be able to accomplish anything good, and you'll just get abused and destroyed and probably blacklisted if you don't end up going to jail. There's probably no point whatever in working in a government job in America at any level right now, and I think everybody can see this. So, and that is the goal of Project 25, and right? They think we shouldn't have any government agency doing anything. not even inspecting the food or the water or worker safety or anything. They don't want any of that done. And that goal is being accomplished quickly. Yeah. And so they've already made bacteria that can break down plastics, and now they've made bacteria that can produce plastics. So it's pretty interesting. There's a condition under which their metabolism creates chains of atoms, and they can trick them into making chains of plastic atoms. So that we may have, it'll take decades for this to become commercially viable, but we may have a better way to handle plastics, which are currently a big problem. We make them using fossil fuels, and they never break down, and they turn into microplastic fragments, which apparently are bad for people and pollute the place and stuff. So we need to have a better way of creating and getting rid of plastics. This one's all over the security news. There's something called ReviewDog, which people get on GitHub. It's a plugin. It's some kind of software you add to your GitHub, which makes it easier to review who's making changes. But attackers managed to steal a session token or a key for an automatic account and poison the supply chain for the ReviewDog product. So 20,000 projects are using it. And what it did was it would take your secrets and post them in the public log. However, they say if your GitHub project was private, that log would not be public. So the damage is pretty minimal. So anyway, they're trying to figure out how it happened. This group called Wiz Research analyzed it, figured out what happened, figured out how they got in, and so on. So anyway, it's an interesting flaw, and this is yet another supply chain attack, and yet another compromise of a automatic account. This is a huge problem here. A lot of these system accounts getting hacked. The problem is individual people that log in typically have two-factor authentication now, so it's hard to get in the account. But this automatic machine accounts do not have two-factor. In fact, nobody knows how they could have two-factor, like some kind of automatic process that does something like fetch email or something from another server. It goes off on some regular time period, and it logs into the server with just something like a hard-coded password. And if you can steal that, then you'll get in, and that keeps happening. Right, here's the one where you stop defeating the bomb-sniffing dogs. Yeah. And so Steak and Shake has decided to please RFK Jr. by no longer cooking French fries in seed oil, which he believes is bad for you, instead cooking it in beef tallow, which RFK Jr. thinks is healthier for you. Nutrition experts don't agree with any of this. As you know, they think red meat and animal fat is very bad for you, and it would be much healthier to eat things like canola oil, and those are the seed oils. RFK Jr. believes a whole lot of conspiracy theories and false statements, like he believes that vaccines are bad for you, and he believes that seed oils are bad for you. This is a popular belief in the alt-right. It's completely baseless, but that's where he is, and so Steak and Shake is now making politically correct right-wing food. And here's a good article about the Freedom Cities. This is something I've been hearing a lot about. Curtis Yarvin started this, and it's basically feudalism. The right wing, the MAGA team, believes that we should not have democracy. They're very explicit about this. They say democracy has failed, and what we have to have instead is a series, they're calling it Freedom Cities. That is the word for new feudalism. What it means is you will have company towns, like Hooverville was in the 30s, where somebody like Elon Musk will run a company like Tesla, and everybody in the town will just work for him, and you have to do whatever he says, and he provides everything. Your health care, your grocery stores, your rent, everything is just controlled by him, and since he is a wonderful, perfect, superior being, your life will be wonderful, and everybody will be happier, and everything will run efficiently and smoothly. And this is, this has been a belief down through history. And we used to have feudalism, where this is just how it worked. You'd have a local lord who was like a lord of your town, and he just had the soldiers, and he could just enforce his will, and you just did what he said. And it turned out that a lot of people didn't just regard this as wonderful and utopian.
Well, he may be pushing the envelope so far to implement the Iure Prima Noctis, the right to sleep with.
Yeah, it'll be a panopticon. If you read The One World by Larry Ellison, he will have cameras everywhere, monitoring everything. He said this. He wants to have cameras everywhere, monitoring everyone, including the police. So there'll be no more crime, no more misbehavior. This will be more of the utopia.
Wow.
Absolute control. Therefore, everything will be happy. Anyway, this is what they're pushing. This is what they're trying to create. Dollar Store Epcot. Well, I don't know what that is. But anyway, that's the game there. All right, anyway, let me stop this. That's enough of the news.